Hey there, welcome to episode 159 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We're recording this at 11:25 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on the evening of Thursday, March 12, 2026. It is Thursday. We normally publish new episodes of this program on Friday mornings. The morning has some slack in it, but looks like we're going to make it this time. So very exciting times. The title and topic of today's episode, What Next? If this is the first time you've heard an episode of Cafe Genius Impresarios, let me tell you, in case you have any questions, Cafe Genius, that's cafe spelled with two F's, but strangely no accent. But that just makes it easier to type. Cafe Genius is a thing, a project, an initiative, an effort that was started in January of 2022 as a wrapper around new types of meetups. That is, we talked about meetups in a meetup. How can we have better meetups? In fact, I just did an episode that recalled some of that to bring it forward to modernity. So Cafe Genius was formed to have those sorts of gatherings. We started off with the pitch workout room to help people turn an idea into a presentation. You just got to get up and start talking. Inspired by stand-up open mic stand-up comedy, or any open mic performances. Sometimes you just got to get up and do it. So we started with that. We had the meetup. What was it? The meetup collaboratory. Then we had the Genius Roundtable, and we've had this audio program. So we're basically taking a look at our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem and ways that we can make it better in a variety of ways, whether it's experimental meetups or different types of, trying to do better with meetups, make them more effective, help to turn new ideas into proaction and investigate, analyze, and maybe even help make better decisions about our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. How about that name, Cafe Genius? Well, cafe with two F's but no accent was inspired by the Cafe Centro, two F's with accent, which was a reasonably small coffee shop in San Francisco in the South Park, very near what is now today the Oracle ballpark. It used to be the AT&T ballpark, and before that, I believe it was the Pac Bell ballpark. I had been to Cafe Centro several times. It was where startups start. It's where Jack Dorsey was sitting there with his laptop working on Twitter, is one of their infamous tales. I've often said that Vegas needs one or maybe several Cafe Centros. So that's the cafe part. Genius, as in the genius lunches that used to take place in the downtown Vegas area back in the downtown project days. I was only a spectator then. I was working for Intel, but if I was in town and they happened to have been having one of these lunches, I joined in. It was usually about a dozen people or so, give or take. Some people knew each other. Some people were a friend of a friend. It was a way for people pursuing startup endeavors to catch up and do a little bit of socializing, but in the space of a lunch, not an all-day this or that, or some sort of a meetup at a venue. It was just literally, let's go grab some lunch, catch up on what's going on, what's the deal, what's up, what's down, what's the gossip, and then back to work or whatever you were doing. As I was not in the downtown project, I did not have a startup at the time. I myself was only a spectator, but it was still useful and interesting. There was no hard rules about being entrepreneurial at the time. So Cafe Genius. Impresario, spelled with two S's, is a correct, though less common spelling. Cafe Genius Impresarios celebrates people that are making stuff happening. Making stuff happen. People that are happening. So that's the scoop. What next? In this episode 159. 159 episodes already. That's crazy. And we are in season 3. Gotta fix that typo. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary of one long sentence. Nope, two. One long, one short sentence. The links for today's episode are the usual two, including a correctly spelled homepage word. The host profile page linking everything is 5 years old in March. That's now. So let's get to it so we can get done. We can publish this episode early. Today's summary: how many different things can go on in the space of a week or two, and what are the chances things only get more weird and less predictable this year? Well, how about some blue sky thinking just in case? As usual, the Cafe Genius homepage, Cafe Genius, that's CAFFEGENIUS, no space, cafegenius.org is the ugly homepage. As I've mentioned in all my other audio programs, it would be nice if I reached this point in my to-do list, but we'll get there. The profile page linking everything, like I said, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, registered in, I don't own that domain or anything, but just I signed up for this platform in March of 2021, so 5 years. If you visit there and visit the posts, so buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts, you will find episodes of Buy Me an Update, which are published on Monday mornings. A quick 5-minute rundown of the previous week's audio programs and any news and announcements upcoming. It appears first on that page, hence the name, and then it gets published in the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, RSS feed, the works. Links to all of my audio programs and all of the places you can find them, my various projects, a little bit of biographical information, and worst of all, some affiliate links for things that I actually use, all available on that page. You need not buy me a coffee, you need not spend any money. But if you do, it will always go towards coffee or coffee accessories to support my creative endeavors. On that note, let's get started. Vegas meets world. Vegas is a part of the world, believe it or not. Sometimes I don't know if it knows that. I live in Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas proper, actually, so within the city limits. This audio program focuses on the greater Vegas entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, and Vegas has definitely been doing, through some weirdness with tourism declines, real estate fluctuation, rents going down lately, gasoline going up, our transit system cutting routes. I like our bus system, even though it sucks. And the list goes on. So Vegas has definitely been doing those things, and I've certainly been talking about them. Vegas is a part of the world, though. Time to think about it, and a bit more than the casual person may have been. The reduction in international tourism of late has gotten people's attention. Or otherwise, Vegas is everything and everyone to everything, or some variation of that. It's time to look out beyond the border and see what's going on. So we have a tenuous economy with unemployment. Actually, Las Vegas has like the second highest unemployment rate in the country. Prices did not explode with tariffs, mostly because, if this is true, importers were absorbing costs with fingers crossed that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, would rule, as they ended up doing, that the tariffs were not actually legal, but the tariff battle seems to remain on the table anyway. Allegedly some 15% tariffs, who knows. Tourism is down in Vegas, and it has been throughout 2025, and but everywhere in the U.S. to varying degrees, and that doesn't look like there's a huge potential for change outside of, in the case of Vegas, the at par promotion. So aside from that, there's really no incentive to change international tourists visiting Vegas. The at par promotion attracts our Canadian friends, but does not fix any issues that are driving everybody to go to other places other than Vegas. The at par promotion, I don't know how long it will go on. I think it went on for 30 days as a pilot program, but it's 3 casinos downtown Vegas, so in the city of Las Vegas. They accept Canadian dollars at American dollar price, so a Canadian dollar is worth an American dollar. USD, is it CDN equals USD? Something, whatever it is. So, or is it CAN? I cannot remember. 1 Canadian dollar is 1 USD. So, in certain circumstances, so you don't actually receive dollars. So, for the purposes of, paying for a room or whatnot at the D, circa the D and California, downtown Vegas. I haven't been to California forever, but they have a really good Hawaiian restaurant that serves oxtail soup after midnight. Keep that in mind. It might be the last thing standing. What else? We have a war with Iran now. Not quite 2 years old as I record this. Or maybe it is 2 weeks old. I can't remember I think it started Friday night in America. So 2 weeks as I record this, and there is almost 2 weeks. Tomorrow, 2 weeks. And there is already talk of a historic disruption to global energy, oil, and possibly substantial impact on food supplies, maybe due to production of fertilizers or lack of production for agriculture, which then has a trickle-down effect feeding animals and, people. Will there be a disposable income excess, surplus for more people to come hang out in Vegas? Well, that is probably an easy one. And it looks like maybe more of the tourism fraction would be considered wealthy individuals, with our appeal to the masses of regular folk like you and me on the decline. I think people are actually starting to sort of figure that out. So no help with that locally or on the world stage. So it doesn't look like normal people will be filling in that 3 million-ish person gap between 2024 and 2025. And so far, 2026 is not off to a wonderful start. And that was before the war started. So before all of this, so like before 2 weeks ago, a quick refresher for those who have not been listening to this program each week. My own ideas, as I have described them, are focused on 3 main areas. It might actually be more than 3, but, rule of 3. Cultivating innovation culture with the Innovate for Vegas Foundation and proactive engagement and understanding of our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem via Cafe Genius, which we talk about via this program. But that is only a small part. So those 2 things, those 2 endeavors, one is an actual 501c3, the former, and one is just sort of a hobby from an IRS perspective, the latter. Basically, this is my own effort to, with others, hopefully. So, I'm trying to drive, but I got plenty of room. Come on in. Basically, this is my own effort to understand and bolster the foundations on which we, so that's me and anyone else, might develop our own stuff. So in order to have an entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem that is sustainable, healthy, vital, growing, I think people that are in it should try to understand it and try, maybe even try to improve it. The Innovate for Vegas Foundation is proactively attempting to cultivate a culture of innovation. We're trying to kick off our Smarter Smart City Challenge. It used to be called the Hackathon, but it's going to be all year. So it's not just a hackathon, it's a challenge that lasts all year. So those are there. They've been ongoing for a while. The information sharing platform, which is an open source initiative and is a component of a local ecosystem elevation plan, but is also a monetizable idea which will be deployed for that purpose. So an open source development with the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, a necessary component of our ecosystem. So we talked about that in our first cohort of our Genius Roundtable. We need better ways to share information, community calendar, which is a common thing among all of the, put your air quotes up, ecosystem builders. Got to have a community calendar, and a few other things. So an information sharing platform that is open source and that could be used by anyone, anywhere, hopefully to make their smart city smarter. But so that is something that I hope to monetize. It's sort of the WordPerfect model. So open source software. There are plenty of examples out there in the world like this. WordPress is one example. So here I'm looking at innovation around the traditional news website. So rather than WordPress, which is literally a newspaper style, inverted pyramid, words for humans and all that, why not use tools of modernity to adopt modernity for real, in fact, with some old throwbacks that still work, like email newsletters. Substack is not a new idea, for example. So ActivityPub, though, is a reason. It's about 7 years old, I think. Your Mastodons, your Lemmy in place of Reddit. There are actually many projects ongoing, different ways of using ActivityPub for literally publishing and subscribing, for following, commenting, all that. So federation, decentralization, a truly innovative locality should be looking into those ways of sharing information with their masses instead of being beholden to the usual and old suspects, Facebook, Instagram, which are not owned by too many companies. So yeah, take back some agency, promote decentralization, and promote people publishing their own content. That's for a different time. Then there is the city as a showcase idea, which I've talked about. I did an entire episode on city as a showcase a couple months back to focus on exposing visitors for trade shows and events. So, tourists, convention attendees, really anybody, to new products and services with feedback, basically a chance to co-create final product ideas or new product launches on a diverse population. Why, when you come to Vegas, are you not seeing the latest and greatest, the coolest, the hottest, whatever, Probably the closest we have to that is the self-driving car. You can take a self-driving car. I don't know if they drive on the strip yet. I think so. But autonomous vehicles have been enabled since the FAA test site days. So about 10 years ago, was it? I think it was about 10 years ago. So yeah, Nevada has actually been leading the way on flying and driving vehicles without drivers, without pilots. So probably the closest you're going to get is if you come to Vegas, you will have an opportunity to try out one of these crazy driverless vehicles. Pretty cool. Why don't we make that a commonality? Oh, when I was in Vegas, the Global Innovation Hub, yeah, that one. Every day I was coming across new things I'd never seen before, and new ways of doing things. And yeah, we could do that. Did you buy anything? I bought one of each. Now, let me also inject my own reflections over my 13 years. That'll be 13 years in August, actually. August 1st. Mid-July. Don't tell anybody. My 13 years living in Las Vegas. After doing 2 tours, or about 15 years, I had a respite in the middle. Respite. I never know how to say that, so I argue with myself whenever I do. I had a respite in the middle of that 15 years when I moved back to Phoenix, took a break from Silicon Valley. So I was there in Silicon Valley from 1993 to 2001, took a break, moved to Phoenix, then all hell broke loose, 9/11, all that. Phoenix was crazy in a slow and not very productive or successful way for me. So I moved back to Silicon Valley from 2005 to 2013 when I had a house fire. That was a good sign. Time to go. So I've been in Vegas ever since. I think there are a lot of issues that require more coherence and cohesion here in Greater Vegas. In other words, a better plan and better communications about that plan, which is ultimately aimed at some kind of economic diversification. Since the pandemic times were quite revealing about how quickly the strip can become empty and what follows, nothing. A lot of layoffs, a lot of shutdown, closing, crazy. Yeah, diversity is a good pursuit. I am all for it. But I already had serious concerns about the pursuit of these other options, as I've mentioned once or twice in these episodes. Per episode, I think I mentioned this once or twice. Not nobody, but I'm concerned about gentrification as a major one. If you look at the history of Silicon Valley, the cost of living in Silicon Valley kind of exploded with the Silicon Valley days. At the boom, the dot-com boom especially. There are a lot of factors. It wasn't just dot-coms, but that didn't help, didn't hurt, didn't help. It depends on your perspective. Or you look at Austin, where their tech explosion completely destroyed the culture, made it difficult for people who made Austin weird and tried to keep it weird. It made them difficult to stay there. So during the pandemic in Vegas, we had a 25 to 40% increase in rent prices. Basically, to live in Vegas, your cost of living, just that part, went up. Groceries and other aspects of a cost of living that I don't really remember, but the rent was a big one. So between cutting hours and layoffs and whatnot, because there were no visitors, no tourists coming to Vegas, the service industry suffered, and then the rent was going up. So income down, rent up, time to go. So it's too easy to see that unfolding once again if you gentrify the place. I have other concerns, but that's like the low-hanging fruit. During the pandemic lockdown interval, cost of living went up. Like I said, unemployment, especially in the fun economy business areas, went down. And a lot of people ended up leaving, priced out of the status quo. So that is a given, and it could happen again. This time looks like near-term prices are actually coming down for rents. For example, the housing market is tricky. I don't know if the prices on homes are coming down quite as quickly, but it's there are some empty. The rental inventory is up. Rent prices are coming down. It will be interesting to see if continued decline in tourism numbers will lead to continued cost cutting in the fun economy, as there is increased focus on that fun economy from more affluent visitors. So during the pandemic, we had across the board fewer tourists, and then that cost of living went up, the rents. So fewer, people, there was nothing to do working in the various resorts. now that the cost of living may be sort of stabilizing, gasoline notwithstanding, but groceries so far are not bad. We'll have to see how this tariff situation goes and what other inflationary factors are a result of the war that we find ourselves in, not to mention energy costs. So the cost of transporting groceries goes up. So even if you're not using oil, somebody else is, and that will cost. So the cost of housing might be going down, but the number of tourists appears to be going down, but the interest is having tourists with more money come to Vegas instead of more tourists with less money. But you don't need as many people working in resorts to service fewer tourists. So that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. I talk about this stuff even though it's not strictly entrepreneurial nor innovative, because it's sort of a reflection on the terrain and who is the farmer in this ecosystem, who is driving this thing. And I wonder what I did a whole episode. What are the OKRs and KPIs of Vegas? I don't mean the city of, I mean just this area, Greater Vegas. What are they trying to accomplish? And we kind of know what they're measuring because they publish it, some of it, on the research page of the lvcva.com website. But what are they trying to accomplish by shooing away a chunk of the tourism population and then lamenting that the tourism population is going down? So I don't. These are the things that, as an entrepreneurial innovator or somewhere in between there, you should be looking and saying, what am I getting myself into here? The short window of change. Once the lockdowns ended, there was a big swing of the pendulum back towards visitors, with 2024 one of the highest. I want to say it was either first or second, and I think 2019 or 18 was the other one of the top two. So they were both basically, I mean, I could look. Should we look? So plenty of tourists. Let's see. Total tourists, Las Vegas, 2019, 42.5 million. Yeah, so 42.5 was the highest in 2019. So it was historically the highest. And then 2024, 41.7. So second. 2024 was second place. But hey, we were coming out of the pandemic. We're still on the upswing. A lot of people are coming to Vegas. So we're approaching the record high of 2019 until 2025 comes along. The air is let out of that balloon. So 2025 is not the highest, but it did have pretty solid visitors, hotel occupancy, and all the other numbers. I'm glossing over these. You can check these on the research tab. Like I said, I've referred to that page too many times. They don't deserve it. But 2024 was a good year. 2025 was not. But I will inject my own editorial. If you have a really good year and you expect to always beat the year before, then you're kind of setting yourself up for potential disappointment. So, a lot of people came here. So it wasn't if it was 50% or something, that would be insanity. It was not. I think it was 7%, 7 point something. Yeah. Super Bowl 2024 was something of a validation event for the addition of professional sports to the fun economy. The fun economy is like gaming, tourism, entertainment, residences on the strip and whatnot. Tourism is coming here to see a show, to go shopping, to go hiking, just coming here to hang out in Vegas. Gaming is gambling, professional sports, and conventions. So I don't know if the fun economy in the trademarked version, the trademark is held by UNLV Office of Economic Development, of course, granted in February of 2025. So that was one good thing from 2025. But those 5 things are essentially the fun economy, right? So professional sports, gaming, tourism, entertainment. Entertainment could also be, getting some drinks, and conventions. Conventions are actually a non-trivial component of the fun economy, but I guess one could argue that they're not strictly fun, but it does bring people to the area and then they can participate in some of that other stuff. So I treat conventions as part of the fun economy, even if it's adjacent. Then there was the Formula One that was added to the mix as a sort of a not so fast action. Hey, don't think that we're going to be awesome at this whole professional sports thing. which is also sort of an ironic thing because it's a race, not fast, is sort of built in. Yeah, not so fast, but it's a car race. Uh, it actually caused a lot of problems. It probably shooed some visitors away. It certainly pissed off a lot of local businesses. So that's another case where people that were running the show from the top down did not necessarily consider the impact on the people who try to live and do business here from the bottom up. That is where my first inclination towards questioning coherence came into my mind. Came into my mind. I'll just say came to mind. I did 3 episodes, a 3-parter for the first year of what I call the F1 fun economy. So F1UN, the fun economy. I don't think it went well. I don't think I'm alone in that. So between 2022 and 2024, there was something of a push toward entrepreneurialism. There was a lot of talk of the startup scene and the tech scene, and that's when Tech Alley was coming out, and that's when Startup.Vegas was having their various meetups and whatnot, and there was this big excitement that, people are going to come to Vegas, get some startup capital, and access to capital is one of the things that everybody always says is missing. So not sure what people were thinking there. With all sorts of messaging about being the next Silicon Valley, those words were uttered by several people over the course of longer than I would have expected, and a global innovation hub that rivals San Francisco's Silicon Valley. That was published in almost exactly that form. I'm paraphrasing. In the first year of the Mobile World Congress, Las Vegas, which was, I think, 2023. I went to that one. It was not worth it. Sorry. All of these. What am I? Who types this stuff? Jeez. Oh, and don't forget Hollywood 2.0. Not to mention the pursuit of a biotech research strength with the new med school opening at UNLV. And so they want to have a biotech, everything. Is there anything Vegas cannot do? Is there anything Vegas can do well? All of these over the years have sort of waned with the LVGEA, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, toning down any pro-startup rhetoric and really focusing on core economic directions into existing companies, existing businesses, and established industries, or maybe established companies in existing industries, whichever you prefer. And City of Las Vegas and Clark County are getting into it right now in court, hopefully, over the Badlands, which is an awesome name, but which it sounds ominous, does it? And it sort of is, because these costs, the cost of the settlement amount, which was $300 and something million, and then this lawsuit about who owes whom what and whatnot. I don't even know what they're arguing about. These costs of the settlements and the court costs and whatever have led to dialing back of such pro-startup messaging, as I had mentioned. So, and somebody on the city staff for economic development said that to me. With the Badlands settlement, we're kind of stepping back from the whole global innovation hub and all that. That's encouraging. For 2025, the numbers started turning down right at the beginning of the year and continue to do so now into 2026. That's not as good. And this was before the war started. Maybe focus on larger established companies and established industries is a better wager. And remember that the fun economy, in particular the gaming component, of course, is built on most people losing. That's something to ponder. So who's betting and who's losing? No, actually, I mean, hey, established companies, if you're going to build up a diversified economy here, entering into high-risk startups, making bad bets, right? Like, your startup has to be tech. That was part of the plan of Startup NV. We're only interested in a certain collection of verticals. And I think it was like cannabis. I think it was tech startups. And I think there was some room for some sort of bio. But I think they really because they're servicing their investors, of course. So they're not taking big risks. I would question this. I think they had some funding I think they were matching funds from one of the state startup funds of some, I avoid working with Startup NV, so I don't care. But the take home, there was a push for about 2 years into, hey, let's get some more startups going in the Vegas area. And that has waned. I don't feel as though that's getting the attention that it was. So, we'll see. The Hollywood 2.0 stuff, there were 3 attempts to get it through the state legislature. 3 up, 3 down. So we'll see about the biotech stuff. So the next Silicon Valley, unlikely. Hollywood 2.0, probably not. Global Innovation Hub, I think that's fun to say, but we have to start demonstrating how that's possible. And then the biotech stuff, we'll see. Could be. But yeah, I think it's very telling. The LVGEA has been pushing startup, the entrepreneurial scene and the talent pool. They're not really emphasizing that as much as, hey, move here and bring your workers. Move to Vegas. The court case and all that stuff. For 2025, the numbers started turning down and continue to do so in 2026, right? So focusing on larger companies does make sense, but I don't know that that's totally clear to everyone. And we have a broken communication environment here. I have mentioned this in previous episodes. The Global Entrepreneur Week, or is it Entrepreneurship Week? Is a global program. There is a Nevada chapter. So there's a Las Vegas and a Reno, or Clark County and Washoe County. So there are specific events. There's like a week of programming. Unfortunately, it is during Formula One week every year so far, which means no one cares about Global Entrepreneurship Week. There's no coverage in the media. There's no coverage on the LVGA website. There's no coverage anywhere. So you have to already know it's happening, and then nobody hears about it anyway. Same with Las Vegas Startup Week. No press, no attention. The same 300 people. So what are my next steps? Well, honestly, there isn't much change for me. Innovate for Vegas Foundation is more important than most people realize. They're demonstrating they don't realize that by never, ever showing any interest. But it costs almost nothing to maintain at this time. So there's no reason to bail on this after all this time. We're in our 4th year. It can move along slowly during what I am referring to as the Civic Volunteer Winter. Now, I virtually attended an event in Toronto during the week. They had plenty of people showing up and doing things. So luckily, the Civic Volunteer Winter does not extend internationally. But from what I understand, certain parts of the United States are slow when it comes to people showing up and doing things of this ilk. So we'll see what unfolds at any time into the future. So, I can take my time. I won't drive myself crazy. In the meantime, we can move at ice roads. The Smarter Smart City Challenge is actually something of a test of the ecosystem and the innovation culture over the next year to see actually who we can get to participate and what they will do. So by 2027, we'll be able to say, you know what? Maybe we should rethink this whole notion of being a global innovation hub, maybe in 10 years. I've talked about my 10-year plan. We don't need to cover that here. We're talking about the near future. The pursuit of greater understanding of the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem with another Genius Roundtable, Cohort 2, will be great if I would, and I would actually say it's an essential thing, which I'll make a final point. My final point of this episode will touch on this again. So I would say it's an essential thing, though I cannot say I will find anyone interested in taking the time to participate. And for Cohort 2, we really want more people from more different areas of entrepreneurialism and innovation and different business type, everything, the whole thing. More diversity, more opinions, more insights, more debate, maybe, who knows. This is the single greatest weakness I have found in Vegas: belief in the hype and a tendency to prefer being a spectator to being a doer, or perhaps a person of action. Once this is factors in, solopreneur pursuits become much more interesting because you drive you, as does relocation to places where there is more energy built in to establish ideas that enable the visibility of an ecosystem we do not yet have. So what I'm saying is moving should remain on your list of options. My city as a showcase idea may not be as viable at this point because of the downturn in tourism, but it remains to be seen based on tourism stats in the near term. So month over month, or each month for year over year per month. So at the end of each month, the previous month, and then compared to the previous year. Yeah, that data becomes available. So for me, 38 million people is still totally fine. That's a great number of people to expose to new ideas. 38 million people is still more than, Shenzhen in China, and they make a lot of interesting things there. Shenzhen in China has a population of 20 million people. So almost 2 times the population of Shenzhen, China comes to Vegas each year from all over. I know that because I had a conversation with someone about that. And he said, hey, Dan, he's from Shenzhen. Hey, Dan, we make things in Shenzhen and nobody comes to see. In Vegas, you don't make anything and everybody comes here. Yeah, truer words. So for me, 38 million people is fine. But what is the confidence in Vegas as the destination? Or is it, if you look at YouTubers and TikTokers, they're like, Vegas is dead. It's over. I don't know about you. I can't fit 38 million people in my Volkswagen to drive. I don't have a Volkswagen, but I used to. That's still a lot of people. So we're not dead yet. But it may be, the perception may be that, what you want to do, there's not enough people coming there. Like, have you seen what 38 million people looks like? It looks almost like 41 million people. So Vegas as a destination may be tricky from a marketing standpoint. So we'll focus on some of the other things I have in mind, which will fit into the information sharing platform idea I've talked about several times, are more likely in the near term. So the next year through 2026, definitely focusing on the information sharing platform. And then that would be useful for bootstrapping the city as a showcase. So there you go. So basically status quo for me. I'm working on what I'm already working on and hoping to get other people to help to make our communities better and all that. So since I do not own a car, I am not directly impacted by gasoline prices, and the secondary impact on food and other shipped items is not huge since I lack kids and pets. So I'm pretty much solopreneur myself. So if I pursue an actual lean startup mode, I'm probably fine. That's the plan. But the bigger picture is the thing we're talking about for real. Things in Vegas have already been a little troubling, again, with the tourism numbers. Some lack of clarity concerning reasons why and actions taken to address the diminished visitor count and all the other metrics. And that slow, not quite so loudly reported upon move towards established businesses, higher in tourism over the so-called startup scene, and a focus on tech-centric entrepreneurial endeavors. So in other words, more focus on high-end visitors and established businesses, and not the stuff we were talking about just over a year ago, between 1 and 3 years ago. So the times have changed through 2025, and I don't know that there is so much interest. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode. The LVGA had hired a senior vice president of entrepreneurial, I don't know if it was ecosystem development, but to drive entrepreneurialism. From the job description, it was very clearly aimed at becoming the next Silicon Valley. So a lot of how many software engineers does it take to change a light bulb? No, but so the metrics, the KPIs that they were having this person be responsible for, the examples given in the job description, turn Vegas into a Silicon Valley. That's essentially what it was saying. And that person doesn't work there anymore. So that the job was held for maybe it was 2 years. And now they're doing podcasts. So that can't be healthy, right? Wait a minute. So nothing I'm saying right now is etched in stone. So I'm not saying that's it. They've given up completely on a startup scene, but they're definitely shifting their focus in the short term. The LVGEA is very clearly focusing on established businesses. So there's fintech and healthcare and what's the other ones? They're on their key industries link, lvga.org/key-industries. Did I get it? lvga.org, key industries. Yeah, I did. I've already linked to that page enough, but it's advanced manufacturing, I think, is a good idea. I think hopefully that is something that they will pursue, because manufacturing can sometimes be overly reliant on water. So if they can do it in a sustainable way, that would actually be good. It would fit into Vegas's overall water conservation mode. A little burp there. Clean tech, same thing. Wind, solar, electric vehicles, all delightful. Sports tech and entertainment, maybe. We'll see. Fintech, I don't know that there's a reason for Vegas to excel in this area, but why not? And then healthcare and biotech. So, and then they list a bunch of companies. So the place where they used to talk about the startup scene and entrepreneurialism has been replaced by different companies that are doing business in Vegas. And that's good. More power to them. There's still a startup section, but it's just now not adjacent, not so directly linked. So I just found that noteworthy. According to a smattering of global economic and geopolitical experts, not to mention various retired military and even region experts for the Middle East, things are not going well with the Iran war. Yeah, imagine that. It has been about 2 weeks, as I've said. So apparently the most profound impact on global energy supply is a line already crossed. So there's already been so much impact on global energy availability, so oil, crude oil, that it's the highest deviation, the highest, what do they call it? What was the word they used? Distortion, I think it was. The highest distortion in the energy market in history since they've been keeping track. So, yay. And that's a line that's been crossed. So coming back from this will take longer than 2 weeks. And coming back from that, any reason it's already become unlikely. So yeah, it's going to be, I keep getting ahead of myself. I apologize. So coming back will take more than a reasonable amount of time. And yeah, by all of these accounts, things are getting much worse for the medium term with each passing day. So the likelihood that it will take longer than 2 weeks, or the likelihood that it will take longer than the time that the war has been taking place goes up non-linearly every day, if that makes sense. So on day 1, it was probably going to be like a day. On day 2, it was probably going to be like a couple days. Day 3, it was going to be a week. Day 4, it's going to be 2 weeks, etc. So it's getting worse by the day, and it's getting worse than at a rate higher than the rate. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's coming up on. Oh, it's after midnight. No more math. Well, will this lead to more visitors who are avoiding or even exiting the Middle East? I've heard that Dubai is now region non grata. Is that even a word? I mean, I guess I'm not laughing at that. I'm trying to come up with a way of saying that, like, when bombs are incoming, you're like, maybe it's time to go. So I believe I saw a stat today. I knew this was a high. I think it was 90% of the population of Dubai is expats. So that might be a problem. People might be heading back home, so to speak. It will lead to, so if the Middle East is tricky, and if there's other, like maybe traveling is not so good, maybe we'll have more domestic visitors who take some time and come to Vegas. Fewer visitors with less to spend on leisure, thanks to inflation, though. So that'll be interesting. And a lack of financial security, that's even worse. I am not an expert. I wrote, I am not expert. I am no expert, or I am not an expert. Pick one. I am no expert. But it sounds like each day is a recalculation of how long a recovery might take and what it would look like, or what it could look like. So that's the whole nonlinear thing. To quote a famous movie, tell me if you know which one it is. I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. I checked. It is I've a feeling, which is a contraction. I have a feeling we are not in Kansas anymore. I'm more than a little concerned that a dip in real estate may lead to a bigger draw for relocation of workers for companies who do execute a relocation or establishment of some presence in the greater Vegas area. So as housing prices go down, you'll have more people saying, oh yeah, I can move to Vegas, or companies that say, we'll relocate you to Vegas. And then that will drive cost of living up a little bit. So gentrification can begin. The business case is not weak from a financial perspective, with substantially reduced business tax liabilities compared to, say, California, to be sure. And in general, if housing is coming down, worker relocation becomes that much more attractive. So yeah, gentrification. It's like I predicted my own future just now. Although I did read an article today that Reno is seeing an influx of California relocations. So Reno might be the better deal, especially if you like Lake Tahoe. By the way, Reno has always been, it has always been proximal to Silicon Valley. But ever since I was in Silicon Valley, I always heard that, oh yeah, Reno is right across the way. You just drive through the mountains to Lake Tahoe onto Reno. So Vegas was always considered a place to get away from Silicon Valley, whereas Reno is considered like, oh, it's kind of like Silicon Valley. That's what I heard when I used to live in Silicon Valley. Maybe the greatest little city in Vegas or in Nevada or in the world. Maybe they will benefit. They have the same state income tax deal. So that could be interesting. If housing is coming down, though, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with relocation. Do people want to relocate to Vegas, though? That's tricky. I've heard it's not a no-brainer. So much has been advertised. Like, I'd rather go visit Las Vegas, but I'd rather live in somewhere else. For example, the Vegas talent pool, which I am not tagging with some jargon, but these are real people. So I'm not trying to be insulting either. But the talent pool is not really built for being the next Silicon Valley, which is some coincidence. By some coincidences, not in the greater Vegas future. Anyway, if I could speak. So yeah, we're not going to be the next Silicon Valley. So the sooner that gets accepted, the better. The next Silicon Valley is more likely to, and I've done entire episodes on this, is more likely to be in Chandler, Arizona, or maybe Provo, Utah, somewhere in Utah. More likely than here in Vegas. But this would no doubt be a consideration for any company looking seriously at Vegas. Who is in Vegas that we could hire? And ever since we formed the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, I was sitting with the then chief of disruption or whatever his title was, like the city's CTO. He told me, it's really hard for people when they move their company here. They learn that they can't really hire. So it becomes difficult. So we'll see how that unfolds. How this will all change in the coming weeks and months is anybody's guess, maybe years, but I am leaning towards pessimistic realism. Like, I don't see good things. If people start gentrifying the area, I don't think that's a good idea. So place your bets. I think if I had a family and I had opportunities in other places, not in Southern Nevada, might be thinking about those opportunities. I think the greater Vegas area is going to be something of a throwback to the Teddy Roosevelt days of rugged individualism. Not for everybody, but certainly if you are listening to this program, hopefully you're interested in the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. I think we're going to be on our own for a while. There is already, not completely, but Amazon and Google will get the attention where we will not. There is already something of a transactional ghosting culture, so easily encountered here in Vegas. I've talked about that too. I suspect this will actually come in handy for when one expects or hopes for any sort of response from most people. Stop doing that. Stop expecting these things. We may be all on our own in the same place, surrounded by water, but not a drop to drink. Similar, which in my view does not improve the possibilities of a successful outcome or successful outcomes for more people, if that makes sense. So I think if more people had any awareness about how collaboration, even a little bit of community elevation, right? Trying to put back some energy into the ecosystem so that it will thrive, so that it will grow, so that it will support you and other people better, and then support each other better, and so on. If there's one thing about the downtown project that I think was both good and also could have been done far better, was the notion of a positive feedback loop. So any of the startups in the downtown project becoming successful and somehow feeding that back into the other companies, the other startups, I think would have benefited everyone a little bit better than the way it, that's something that we can explore if the retrospective ever happens, if people are actually willing to share that insight. But in the meantime, I think we're going to be all on our own, even in a crowd. I think we're already seeing this. Placing bets on fewer people who happen to have more money increases the risk per visitor that they will not show up. I continue to want, although I did read 2 days ago that the At Par program has led to 150,000 Canadian people coming to Vegas. So I don't know if that's more or fewer than expected, but good. I continue to wonder about the decision-making process and the problem of groupthink, maybe undue focus on several big numbers rather than a lot more of the smaller numbers. Like each visitor only spent $250, per day, whereas the rich visitors spend $1,000 a day. But we had 3 million more of the of the smaller number of visitors during the year than we, so if you just look at some of the numbers, like, oh, well, yeah, they don't spend as much. Yeah, but 4 times as many, 5 times as many come here per unit time. That's worth looking at. And plus you then get your reputation back. Vegas is the place to be, not the place to avoid. I honestly believe a greater focus and greater awareness by people who have skin in the game, an actual stake in this ecosystem. And by the way, the resorts, of course, have a stake in it. So they have their say, and they do what they do. And if they're shunning normal people by raising their fees and their room rates and all that, although the room rate for the year was not too outrageous, so I'm not sure how that impacts it, but maybe it's a perception thing too. Maybe they need to do, whoever they is, need to do a better job of telling people, no, it's not that bad on Tuesdays. I honestly believe a greater focus and greater awareness of people who have skin in the game and actual stake in this ecosystem and the larger, greater Vegas ecosystem. You don't need to be an entrepreneur nor an innovator to have a stake in this place. So you might have any sort of thing going on. Getting those people involved will be essential. I question the judgments made in recent years by people on high who may or may not have the interests of the larger numbers, ironically. So more, Formula One was very successful for a small group of well-off, businesses and people. We hurt a couple of small businesses to the tune of a few $1 million, but the Fontainebleau was cool. The Fontainebleau. I think I mentioned this. If you are listening to a YouTube video and the voice says Fontainebleau, you're totally listening to AI slop. But I think it's Fontainebleau. Fontainebleau is acceptable. Fontainebleau, if you want to be pedantic, but Fontainebleau, no. At the end, final point, here we are. At the end of the day, or the end of the year, I suppose, I think it makes less sense to listen to or read the words of so-called ecosystem builders. I'm not a fan of that whole concept. I mean, I think you can affect an ecosystem emerging someplace, but I always use this example. A farmer does not grow wheat. You set up the circumstances. You provide the water, the soil. You do some tilling, some planting, some irrigation, whatever it is. You do all the things. You hope that there's sunlight and no pests, and then the wheat grows itself. So the ecosystem, I think, emerges when you have all the ingredients in place. So if you want to call that building an ecosystem, but I think you really have to look at it more as it's still a crapshoot. Like your ecosystem, like you'll see these rules. Oh, if you want to build a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem, you got to have these 20 things or these 15, whatever it is. You're like, well, okay, suppose I'm starting off in a desert or I'm starting off in a rainforest. Those might be different. So I just think ecosystem building is, it kind of simplifies things. And I think it sets expectations maybe differently. And I think you can very easily fall into Goodhart's law where the KPIs become the goal. And I don't know if that's healthy. So anyway, I digress. So yeah, ecosystem builders from different parts of the country. Great. Let's focus here because that's where we are. Let them focus where they are. Like following a cookbook recipe, perhaps. These are interesting places to begin a strategic plan. So yeah, you can listen to what they have to say, but don't take that as the recipe. What happens when the situation is not as it was described in the book? What happens when the general population is not so interested in the standard playbook? That's a big problem here in Vegas. The Clark County mission for our innovation future is to focus on artificial intelligence. And my response to that is, I don't know if it's a good idea to tell innovative entrepreneurial personalities what they're going to be working on. So you'll get what you get in that case. If you create a fertile land and then let people grow what they want, that might be more interesting. Entrepreneurs, startup people, innovators, creative types, these are the sorts of people who look around, see problems, and devise solutions. That's how you create a successful business sometimes. I believe the best chance Greater Vegas has, on the whole, is to get a very large round table and commence discussions directly. So rather than having a high dollar ticket, tickets are expensive, to go to these elbow rubbing, hey, we're having a state economic, whatever, we're having these, great. but you're only inviting people who are not entrepreneurs trying to accomplish something in situ, right? So you should invite, and you should in fact feature, hey, you're an entrepreneur in Greater Vegas area. What are you working on? Well, my startup failed actually. But people don't examine that stuff, and we can get into the whole survivorship bias thing. But the take home is my view. If they want economic diversity and they want to steer the ship in a completely different direction away from the extraction economy, which is historically what Nevada is, you should involve the people that will be doing it, not believe that they can be told what to do by people who make more money and have big titles. So that's me being critical, but I'm saying what I think. So we're just about at 1 hour. And we finished the show as I've written it, so that's cool. Thanks for listening as always. Don't forget I haven't really gotten people asking about it, so I got to do a better job of outreach. LinkedIn is the worst possible place to reach out to people to do something interesting in the Vegas area. You really have to announce that it's done already, and then people will say, oh, I didn't even know about it. So getting the word out, information sharing platform has to come first. That's just the way it is. Not one single person has asked me, what is this Genius Roundtable about? So yeah, my LinkedIn connections are spectators apparently, or they are not interested until I have something to show them. So I need to find the real entrepreneurs. That's where it is. Thank you for listening, and have a great weekend or a great week whenever you're listening to this. And let's talk soon. Bye-bye.